Mm. Hi, guys, and welcome back to the That's Where I'm At podcast. Today I have Heidi Bee. Heidi Bee is a divorce comeback coach, is a certified and trauma informed divorce coach and somatic breathwork facilitator. Her 3-month comeback course and coaching community gives women the exact roadmap, resources, and relationships they need to navigate their new normal and get their life back after divorce. She's also the host of the podcast Divorce Comeback Coach, where she hosts candid conversations with truth talk and tips to start taking your next best step now towards the life you deserve and desire. Thanks for being here, Heidi.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be with you today.
I'm excited to talk about this. I love even just the title of your podcast, right? It's that comeback, the divorce comeback. Because I feel like sometimes I know I felt this way, that maybe you don't feel like you're ever going to come back from
Yeah.
it, and that you are, what, can you come back from it, right? So how did you get involved in doing that kind of stuff, that kind of coaching?
Well, the short story is that what you just said, I really woke up and I thought, well, I am deep in the divorce ditch. I call it the divorce ditch. You
Yeah.
know, that spot where you accidentally kind of trip and fall into it. Most of us aren't really planning on getting divorced when we get married.
Right.
So you trip and you fall, and sometimes you get a mouthful of dirt
Oh no.
and you're stuck down in that ditch for months or weeks or however long, or years or however long.
Right.
And we just don't know how to get out. And some of us just feel a little dirty and can kind of brush it off and like climb out sooner than others. And others of us are down there laying, feeling paralyzed, can't move, feel like we're getting buried by everything above us, day after day after day. And we literally feel like we're not going to get out. And that was me. And I didn't think that that would be me. I was a pretty tenacious go-getter kind of a
Okay.
girl. My
Yeah.
previous job was an event planner, just jet setting around the globe. I was in my early 30s, climbing that corporate ladder,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. And then boom, it just hit me like a bag of bricks. And
And I want to comment on that because I felt the same way after my divorce. I thought, I was getting rid of the quote unquote problem, and that I
yeah,
was just going to walk out of my marriage and it was just going to be like,
yes,
roses. I got rid of the problem. And then I was
yes,
like, oh. And my friends were like, you got to be careful. You're going to be grieving. And I was like, grieving? What are you talking about? I don't want
yeah,
that. You know what I mean? You just don't even realize. So that's when I started researching and talking to people, because I was feeling that same way. I felt like I was in a pit. You say ditch, I say pit. That's
yeah,
how I felt. I felt so sad and alone, and nobody was talking about it. Like,
yes.
did you have people around you talking about, hey, I got a divorce and this is how I'm healing? I mean,
No,
nobody
no,
around me.
and literally, I love all the things you just said because I was literally Googling how to heal from divorce. Where are other divorced women? I
Where
was
are they?
literally Googling, like, how can I find other people like me? But I really was being a little more specific than that. I was like, how
Okay.
can I find people like me who have the tenacity and desire to go, I'm not going to let this get me down. I mean,
Yeah.
that was my heart in the beginning,
Hmm.
but it quickly, once I signed the papers, that was me, like, as I was going through the decision making of being divorced. It was like,
Hmm.
well, I'm not going to let, I love that you said, I'll just get rid of the problem. I
Right.
didn't really know what the problem was. We just kind of collectively decided that we were distancing.
Okay.
And it all, then we decided together, hey, like, let's make this official.
Hmm.
I need to do me, you need to do you. But
Right.
little did I know, like, I felt like a Taylor Swift song. It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Because I woke up one day in the divorce ditch, like I said, and
Yeah.
I thought that maybe I had gotten rid of the problem and I'll just move on because I'm this fierce, awesome woman, like
Right.
Tiger Woman. That's kind of the spirit animal that I've always been. I'm a Leo, so that says a lot
Okay.
probably to a lot of people.
Yeah.
We're very fiery and we're very
Mhm.
energetic and we're very passionate about life and love and friendship, all the things. We're
Right.
super fiery and flowy. And it was the opposite. I for the
Yeah.
first time felt, well, I didn't know, I and didn't want to admit. I want that to be very clear with people because I think there's going to be people sitting here that I didn't want to admit that I was depressed.
Yes.
But I was grieving and I was resisting grieving. I was like, I don't grieve. I'm not sad. I'm moving on.
Right.
I'm moving up. Here we go. But it was a facade for pushing away the pain because I was in
Mhm.
so much pain that I was honestly, when I felt a drop of it, I was terrified, and I kind of
Yeah.
tried to push it away, and then I got into this whole spiral of numbing agents. I never did, like, hard drugs. I used
Right.
food as a drug, I used
Yeah.
alcohol as a drug,
Mhm.
I used napping as my choice coping mechanism, I used I call it over-socializing, over-exercising, overworking. I
Yes.
overdid anything and everything in my life,
Just to
to
avoid, right? To
That's
avoid
right.
it all. Yeah.
That's right, that's right.
Uh,
So I got into this work because I wanted to have other divorced women in my life that I could talk to who also, in the same flavor, in the same note,
Yeah.
wanted to find themselves up level in life, like really feel like their full self on this journey of reclaiming their life. Like I woke up one day going, I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even
Yes.
know what I want. So I wanted, and I couldn't find it, Laura.
Yeah.
I would browse through, I would, like I said, I would Google, I
Mhm.
would kind of go on, different sites, not dating sites. Well, I eventually went on a dating site,
Like
but I went to like
meetup kind
Meetup.
of?
Yes,
Okay, yeah.
exactly. And I would sign up for salsa dancing classes and plant making classes and paint a pot
Right.
classes. And like I
Yeah.
signed up for everything under the sun, but it just wasn't my people because none of them were divorced. And I had convinced
Yeah.
myself there just are no divorced people. I'm the only one. Here I
Well
am, lonely, lonely little me over here.
well, seriously, and that's how I felt. Especially when, like, for me coming out of abuse, but even just talking about it in the circles I was running, I'm like, has no one ever been divorced? Has no one ever been in abuse? And so I went into a shame spiral. And that's the hard part because I think that happens many times with anything we're coming out of where we feel very alone. Because shame is very isolating. So we feel kind of, I don't know. For me, I notice that it goes to shame, and
Yeah.
that's when I was feeling like I need to find my community. And then I was starting to find some people, but then I was like, let's create a community. And it feels like that's what you were doing, right? Because
Yes.
when you can't find your people, look, now because of the circles we run in, sure, we can find them all. We know where they all are, but before, I was like, has no one ever been divorced or in abuse or
Yeah.
anything? And that was really hard. But the point of that was we don't really talk about it because maybe of the shame and maybe the stigma of society. Oh, you're divorced, or like this
Absolutely.
broken home, or you failed in your marriage. Those kinds of things did
Yes.
not help that societally were saying these things. And so now I like that we can have these conversations and speak so freely about it, because I had friends saying, "Did you know my first marriage was abusive and whatever?" Nope, because we don't talk about it.
Exactly.
So now
My
it's
whole
nice to
goal,
have these
yeah,
conversations.
totally. My entire focus, mission, goal is how do I create a safe space
Yeah.
for women to come together, feel safe
Mhm.
enough to talk about where they're struggling,
Yeah.
get the support that they need, and that was a missing piece for me because I wasn't a divorce coach at the time. I needed to get the
Okay.
certification and go through the things, and I ended up quitting my full-time job once I realized that the things that I learned actually worked, because I went into my coaching
Okay.
certification, which was a 12-month certification process, that gave me so many tools to understand myself better, learn myself better.
Mhm.
And then I regenerated all of those things to get real, real specific for divorced women.
Okay, great.
So it really is how I think there's two parts of it. It's like,
Mhm.
I know that I woke up and went, I'm divorced, now what? What do I do
Yeah.
now? All I know is that I don't feel like me and I feel like crap, and I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like this forever. I think I'm gonna be stuck like this
Yes.
forever.
Right.
And the reality is I just didn't know how to navigate,
Right.
and I didn't know that there were even tools out there to just try on for size
Mhm.
at a slow pace so you don't
Yeah.
overwhelm your system, and because
Right.
divorce is already enough, to just kind of trickle into my life and play with. And then also be surrounded by other women who wanted to do the same
Yes.
thing. So it just,
And
I've
giving
just
each other
never
hope,
seen.
right? Giving each other
Yes.
hope. And that's for me, that was important too, because I wanted to share that and I wanted to find people like you. I mean, and we found each other on social media. And I love that,
Yeah.
that because when I find accounts that are giving me hope, I felt alive and I didn't feel alone anymore. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
I'm gonna come out of this ditch. I'm gonna come out of this pit. Thank you. And so that's why I
Yes.
know that you feel the same way, why we have to bring hope to others to say, it's okay. I was where you are. I'm just like you. I was where you are,
Yes.
and you're going to come out of it. It's just so, it just is so, it really lights my soul on fire to continue to do that, to give others hope. That is for sure. Because people need to know that there is hope on the other side,
Yeah.
especially if you were in a long term marriage, right? And now
Yes.
they're coming to you with this, okay, now what do I do? I was with this person 25, 30 years. Who am I? Because I know I'm
Yes.
still learning who I am because I was with him for 33 years. Like, who the heck am I?
Exactly. Exactly. I call that the significant other syndrome,
Oh,
which is
yes.
I have been so attached to the identity as a significant other, and so
Yes.
many of us do this, and we do this without even realizing it.
Right.
It's unconscious,
Right.
right? And there is one thing to connect with someone else and be on another level with someone else and do life on a regular basis. This just happens. We
Yeah.
adapt, we adjust, we grow. It's just our schedules, all the things.
Right.
But it's another thing to really feel like you are significant because you are with someone else for so long. You've invested in
Mhm.
this for a very long time. It's become so much of your makeup of how you be and how you move through life
Mhm.
that when that is cut off,
Yeah.
a lot of us go, holy smokes.
Mhm.
I have all this other side of me that I don't know what to do with this. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's what I like. I don't know if that's what I want. I
Mhm.
don't know if is who I am or if it's who I was because I was with him or her or they or them or whoever.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know, it's just, I think that it's important to know that there is a real moment where sometimes we wake up and we don't know who we are anymore and we don't know who we what we want. And I think that for me, creating your comeback is this fierce
Mhm.
reclamation
Yeah.
of who you want to become and
Yeah.
the life you desire to design.
I want to talk about that because one of the things I thought I was going to be doing in my comeback was going back to who I was.
Ooh, I love this.
But that okay, I was 22 when we got together. I'm not
Yes.
going that's not me anymore. No matter if you were not in a toxic marriage or anything, you're not the same person. I'm not the same person I was at, when we get divorced, I was 55. I'm not the same person I was at 22. It's a different person. So, do you find that when people, say women are coming to you saying, I want to get back to who I was, and also something you talked about before was, did I do the right thing? Did I make the right choice? I feel like these questions are almost trying to get us back rather than move us forward. Do you find that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that one of the first things that we do is we talk a lot about our future self.
Okay.
And for a lot of people, it feels overwhelming, but we have to really break it
Yeah.
down into small little nuggets and baby steps. But I think it's less about going back. It's not a returning to, it's a
Yeah.
reclaiming of. Let me
Oh, I
say that
like that.
again. It's not
Yes.
a returning to, it's a reclaiming of. Now,
Mhm.
if you want to reclaim something that you had before, so a lot of us feel a sense of loss. That is
Yes.
why we go through this grief cycle over and over and over, which is not linear. You don't go through the step 1 through 7 of grief.
Right.
You go from 1 to 5 to
Right.
2 to 7, all
It's a
in
big
15
messy
minutes.
circle.
It's
Yes.
like a lot of people think like it's a circle and oh, all I need to do is close the loop. Okay, but
No.
it really is if you learn about grief and you study grief,
Yes.
it's not linear, it's all over the place. So as we're processing and understanding and becoming aware of what our soul feels like it lost.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people in narcissistic relationships, perhaps you feel like you lost your voice.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like, I didn't have the permission to speak the way that I wanted to, maybe
Right.
dress the way that I wanted to, maybe,
Mhm.
Because I think narcissist has a lot to do with control, right?
Right.
Like
Uh-huh.
just
Yep.
being in control and things like
Yes.
that. So if you want to reclaim that control over your life, those elements of your life that you feel like you lost, you don't need to return to a version of you. You get to reclaim the elements
Oh
and
my
the
gosh.
essences of those things rather than that version of you, right? We're not going back
Yes.
to a version of us. We're moving forward and we're reclaiming things like our voice, our
Yeah.
choice, our confidence, our peace, our freedom. These are just things that my clients say all the time, right?
And I
And I
think
ask
that's
them,
why
"What
it's
do you want?"
I think it's so important. I've worked with coaches as well, and I love that because with coaching, right, you're planning for your future, right? You're dreaming again, all those things, and that's what I started doing with my coaches because I thought it was going back to go get something that I had left behind, but it wasn't. There's a reason why I started a podcast. I didn't even know that I didn't really have my voice anymore, that I never had my voice. But in coaching and even doing like breath work and hypnosis and things like that, it's like, oh, I've never had a voice. I started my podcast and said, oh, no one's ever let me talk. This is why I started a podcast. And my coach was like, yeah, I was just waiting for you to, to like um be aware of that. I was like, "Oh my gosh." And
Yeah.
so this is what you're learning. I love that because it's what you're learning because I came to my coach the first thing, one of my first coach, I said, "I just want to dream. I don't know what it means." And I love that
Yes.
you can give people the tools to just go, "You just want to dream? Okay, let's go forward and see what we can do with your life, what you want to do because they might be different than in the past, right? They might be different
Right.
dreams than in the past."
Right. Oh, absolutely. I think so much of it too is meeting yourself where you're at.
Yeah.
Like, where am I at right now? And what do I need to get rid of to make space for? So I
Okay.
think a lot of times there's this thing that I call emotional constipation, and it sounds kind of gross, but I use it because
Yeah.
it's a very clear of what it is. And what
Yes.
emotional constipation is a lot of us think about when you get stopped up in your digestive tract. How does
Right.
that feel? It hurts. It can
Yes.
be very painful. And until it moves through,
Yes.
right? Until it moves through us,
Yeah.
we don't feel that relief and release. And we don't have any more space inside to take in anything
To take
else.
anything. Oh, that makes so much sense. And I felt like with me and maybe your clients are going through this that the thing that I wanted, which was using my voice, I didn't know what that would look like, kept coming up for me in things I was trying. I'd be like, "Oh, I want to do this. I'm going to go do a live video or whatever." And I wasn't even really talking about certain things, and it started to come out because it was in me. And so, are
Yes.
you uncovering these kinds of things in your clients?
Yes. I love the word uncovering. I feel like recovery,
Mhm.
I love things that rhyme. Recovery is self discovery.
Mhm.
And what self-discovery is this uncovering and
Yeah.
discovering of who you really are.
Mhm.
And so part of where I had gotten stuck in my marriage is I forgot to continue to decide who I was going to be,
Yeah.
decide what I wanted for myself,
Mhm.
decide what my energy was going to be like every day. I just kind of got into this like, this is how it is, this is how it goes, this is life.
Right.
And I forgot about who I really wanted to become and what my dreams and goals and desires
Mhm.
were. And if you don't put intention behind your life, it's going to go stale. It's going to go stagnant. It's going to go to neutral. You're going to be on autopilot.
Yeah.
And that can be a really um, not great place to be after a while, you know?
Well, and you may not even realize you're probably going into bitterness or resentment because you're
That's
not
right.
dreaming anymore. You're not doing the things you liked anymore. And not everyone has a toxic partner, but if but that can happen, I think, and anytime you just start giving up on your little things, life happens, but then it's so hard to continue to dream. And I really haven't felt like I always say I'm not if I'm not dead, I'm not done. So I keep going and I keep dreaming even though my body feels old. I'm trying to do things. But are the what age group are the women you're working with, and are they feeling in that way as well? Like, did I do the right thing by ending my marriage of this many years, and how do I move forward when I feel old and like towards the end of my, not the end of my life, but you know what I'm saying, like maybe I should be retiring and relaxing, but I want to start dreaming again.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love this question so much. So I bump into a lot of women who are in their 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
That seems to be kind of that midlife time where their
Mhm.
partner decides to kind of lose it and they lose
Right.
themselves and they say, like you said, I'll just get rid of the problem. It must be my partner. And then they go through infidelity or different
Yeah.
issues. So I attract a lot of folks in that range.
Yeah.
However, I will say that the more that I do this work, the more that I'm meeting people that are in their late 50s and mid 60s
Wow.
who are having this epiphany of, do I need to still stay stuck? Do I need to believe that it's too late for me? Do I need to? And so this breaking down, this is such a great conversation because
Mhm.
we all have the choice to choose what our next chapter is going to be. And even if you're in your 40s and you're starting
Yeah.
over, one of the things that I get a lot from my clients, especially those who have gone through infidelity
Okay.
or been cheated on, right? So
Right.
things like that, when they've been in a 29-year relationship or whatever it is,
Right.
one of the things is, how am I ever going to trust again? Do
Yeah.
I even want to get in a relationship with another person if I went 29 years and all of a sudden now this is just popping up? Now this is just surfacing? What
Yeah.
is happening here? But the reality is that what we talk through sometimes is that it's more about trusting yourself,
Yeah.
trusting that no matter what's going to happen, you can handle it. Because here's the hard truth: love requires risk.
Mhm.
Love requires
Yeah.
immense risk. And no matter what, we all don't know when our time is up.
Right.
So if you're in your 40s and you decide to jump back at it again after, here's a big asterisk, after you have really worked through the healing process, because
Yeah.
now I got on Tinder like 2 weeks after I got divorced because I was like, I'm going to show him, I'm
That's
I'm
right.
I'm amazing.
That's right.
And that really, I'm going to say, it was a very entertaining time. It really told the insecure version of me that I still got it,
Right.
but I did not attract the
The
kind
right
of
person.
partnership that I
Yes.
deserve, desire, and actually wanted. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll just put that out there. But regardless of if, when you feel this sense of self, when you feel the sense of deep love, when you feel like you are truly in a space where you can trust yourself again, and you go out into the dating world, let's say, boom, you're in your 40s and you find somebody else, or your 30s or your 20s, whatever. I
Mhm.
just use 40 as a
Yeah.
midlife,
Yeah.
whatever. It's just out there. But the next month, your partner may pass away.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be infidelity. You could
Right.
be in your 60s and your partner could make it all the way until you guys are in your 100s,
Yeah.
because tomorrow's not guaranteed. So,
Right.
we just have to trust that if we are willing to put ourselves
Mhm.
through the risk that love requires,
Yeah.
because you either get it or you don't. You're either going to risk it and you're
Right.
eventually going to get hurt because somebody's going to pass away or leave,
Right.
and then you're going to grieve, or or you don't, and you're
Mhm.
probably going to have times where you grieve the other side of it, where it's
Yeah.
just like, I don't have partnership, I don't have that deep connection that I desire, but my heart is less kind of anxious all the time because
Right.
it doesn't know what's going to happen. It's one or the other. There's not this kind of in between space when it comes to love, because there's a lot of uncertainty. So one of the best things that we can do in our healing space is learn how to connect and have a better relationship to uncertainty.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I
How
love
can I
that. Yeah.
react when things feel uncertain? How can I calm my
Mhm.
nervous system down when I feel uncertain, when I feel unsafe,
Yeah.
when I feel insecure? Because I can tell you, the version of me when I was married,
Yeah.
when all those things would pop up, she had no tools. She had no
Right.
guidance. She had
No.
no idea what she was doing. So what did she do? She either freaked out on her partner or shut down
Right.
altogether
Right.
or had a bitch sesh with her gal
Right.
pals, which, there was no like communication back and
Right.
forth, healing. How do I heal myself so that I can tell my partner what's really at the core here?
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So there just was a lot of that. But I think that I want to go back to that moment where I told you the reality of waking up and not knowing who you are.
Yeah.
I want people to know that you don't have to be afraid of that,
Yes.
because all that is that uncertainty. What you want to do is get curious.
Right.
Get curious about it. You don't have to wake up and go, "Oh my gosh, I don't know who I am." And even if you do, just go, "Okay, let's be
Hmm.
curious.
Right.
I don't know if I like that. I'm going to try it."
Right.
Or I really didn't like that after I tried it. I'm not going to do that again. That didn't feel good.
That's the thing that I try to explain to people is like just try things. And my therapist did tell me, she said, say yes to a lot of good things because there's plenty of time for wine and Netflix. But at some point, that may not get you to where you want to be because I didn't want to be anxious all the time and I wanted to move forward. But there was a time where I was just like, this feels good for now. So this is what I'm doing now.
Yep.
Don't you feel like also there's that we have to feel comfortable enough to be able to be alone? Sometimes I'm seeing that people are rushing, okay, I'm divorced, and to feel whole, quote unquote whole, because we've been societalized like this, I need to go find another partner. And like you said, I'm amazing. Let me go find someone who will tell me I'm amazing. But I wanted to learn to be okay being alone. And so I may have overcorrected and no one's ever coming into this space. But we'll get there. I'm just not ready yet. It's just my sanctuary. So but I don't you think that that might be something too, especially when people are coming out of a long-term marriage. How can I be alone and like it and be okay with it?
Yes, I had a friend on my podcast one time. We were talking about just the sacredness of that solo time in your life.
Yeah.
And it is super sacred. And she said something along the lines of, if you're feeling lonely,
Yeah.
look at who you're with,
Oh, wow.
because you're by yourself. So, what she meant by that is that means in those moments where you're feeling lonely because it's just you,
Yeah.
it's time to give yourself more deep love. It's
Yes.
time to give yourself more of that self assurance. It's time to give yourself more of that space for growth. Because if you don't like who you're with when you're alone,
Yeah.
that's who you're with, you.
Yeah.
That means you don't like you right now. And
Right.
so it's just a signal, it's just a sign, it's just information that we get to work on how to know ourselves and grow ourselves more and more. If you don't like who you're with when you're alone, she didn't say lonely. That's what it was. If you
Oh,
don't
okay.
like, look at who you're with and how you
When
feel when you're
you're
alone.
alone.
If you
Yes.
don't like who you're with when you're alone, you're with you.
Yes. And
And it's time
people,
for that relationship to grow.
and people had asked me, aren't you lonely? And I'm like, I was already lonely in my marriage. And so what I wanted to learn alone was how to be content. And I
Yeah,
actually am, and that's the thing. That's the hard part, right? Where it feels like an overcorrection. Why guys are like, why are women like, where are the good women? That kind of thing. And it's like, well, but you're competing with our peace because those of us who are really working and doing the inner work, we're working on ourselves, we're on that self-love, and especially after so many years, really just for trying to find peace, it's hard to think about letting someone in who's not going to mess around. It's like
absolutely.
you have to come in and have the same energy as me. We need to be peaceful and we need to be committed to each other and those kinds of things. It's so interesting. So I know it's not an overcorrection right now. It's just that it's like I'm not ready yet, and I feel like keep doing the work. I feel like I'm just keep doing the work to make sure because that's a because I was kind of overcorrecting at the beginning. No one's ever coming here. I'm
Yeah,
never gonna talk
for
to anybody ever
sure.
again. That's how you almost get defensive, right? In that
Yes.
overcorrection. that's not
The
that's not the
difference
way to do it.
between the difference between the Tinder part of me,
Yes.
that dating app in the beginning,
Yes.
and the version of me 7 years ago when I met my now boyfriend,
Yeah.
my now serious partner who I live with,
Yeah.
the difference of that human is so massive.
Yes.
One was coming from this place of desperation, of
Right.
I'll show you, this very like prove it externally type of thing. The version of me 7 years ago, when I bumped into this person,
Uh-huh.
was I'm good with me. I'm
Yeah.
living my life. I'm loving my life. I'm loving myself at a level I never have before. My cup is overflowing.
Yes.
And I truly, truly believe that as I was choosing things, I was choosing activities, even if I had to do it alone. I
Right.
was choosing activities I loved. I was choosing a living space. I had moved 3 times at this point because I wanted to up level that experience. I didn't want to live here anymore. I wanted to live over here, a different part
Yeah.
of the city. We
Yeah.
have to be willing to stay open and curious to what our soul is kind of asking for and say yes to the things that it's asking for and say no to the things that it's not, because we only have a limited amount of space in our beingness. And so
Yes.
the more that I said yes to me, I was like overflowing with who I wanted to be. And so I was attracting someone else who loved that, who loves that version of me.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in my Tinder time, we'll call
Right.
it, I was attracting people who
Right.
loved that insecure,
Yes.
not so confident,
Mm-hmm.
very sad and desperate version of me. So we want to be really careful in this time that it can be easy. Let me rephrase. It can be simple.
Yes.
Easy is a difficult word for me. It can be
Right.
simple
Right.
as continue to do more things
Mm.
with your time and energy that make you feel like you
Yeah.
and light up your life. And the more that we do that, the more we can feel confident of there's something out there that's bound to bump into me
Yeah.
that's gonna love me just the way I am because I'm tired. Divorce is so exhausting. I'm too
Mm-hmm.
tired to put on another facade
Yeah.
and attract another person that's not meant for me.
Yeah. It's so funny to having been on a couple of dates going, just knowing that I don't have to settle, thinking back to the old me going, oh, I would have convinced this guy that I'm perfect for him and I would have like shape shifted into whatever he needed me to be. And it's
Yeah,
like now I'm like, I put on pants for this. Okay, so I gotta go. you
I
know?
get that. Me too. I still feel like that.
Right.
And not with my partner, but with friendship. Right?
Yes.
Because a
Right.
lot of times in divorce, we're not just reconstructing, redesigning
Mm-hmm.
our romantic relationships. A lot of times, this forces us to choose new family or
Yeah.
family relationships,
Yeah.
new friendships, or different differences in our friendships.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of makes me realize, like, I. I'm getting more and more and more and more in that recreation phase, in that comeback phase of awareness of what I really want to be and who I want to be around and how much I
Yes.
want to be at this get together or not be at this get together. And it's
Right.
like, I now just give myself permission. Hey, mom. Yeah, I'm going to be there for 2 hours. Game night's only going
Yes.
to be this long. It's not going to be a 7 hour thing. It's going to be a 2 hour thing.
Right.
And at first, I got all this pushback. And then it was like, this is just who I am and what makes me feel
Mm-hmm.
like me now.
Mm-hmm.
Take it or leave it. I'm good with it.
I've noticed that in my healing in the last couple of years, how some friends have gone, and that was the biggest surprise. Excuse me,
Yeah.
surprise for me. And I understand that that's very normal because the healing version of you or the person who isn't a spouse anymore or whatever doesn't make sense to some people. And as I'm learning and growing and setting boundaries, because boundaries was the biggest thing for me, learning how to set healthy boundaries. That's how I was able to leave my marriage and then have different relationships. I think that's hard. And are you dealing with that with your clients that the friendships are changing? So and so is no longer my friend. You know, maybe they're only wanting to hang out with a married person or something. I know for me that the healing version of Laura doesn't work for everybody, and I know I just want you. It's just the nature of the beast. I'm afraid to say, and I don't want to scare anybody, but your whole life changes, but it's for the good in so many ways.
Absolutely. I love that you shared that. It really it hit a lot in my soul. Because it can be very exciting to go through this process when
Yeah.
you start going, "Oh my gosh, I have this awareness. I'm learning that. I'm learning this. I'm learning that." And it can be very painful.
Yeah.
because you realize that's no longer for me. Maybe that was my childhood friend from second grade,
Yeah.
right? And this person, they're no longer, maybe they weren't there for me during
Yeah.
my divorce. Maybe they're just showing up kind of on kind of mid road, and I'm going reevaluating, going, they don't really get it, and they're not
Right.
really here for that. They're only here for their happy times. They're not really here for
Yeah.
me as I want to talk about my growth, because I think there is a switch
Mhm.
that flips too. I don't know if you're experiencing this or have
Mhm.
or will, but in the beginning, I kind of felt like it was so dark.
Yeah.
And it was like one of those white lights switched on a dimmer,
Yeah.
and then it got a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter, a little bit brighter. And as I started to see myself in this light, I started to see others in this light.
Yes.
And it was kind of like, oh, whoa, 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 there's so much going on here. Um, but I think it's really important to remember, and this is what got me through this friendship part,
Okay.
because it does really hurt,
Yeah.
is I continue to remind myself in these types of moments that the more that I let go of things that no
Yeah.
longer are for me and serve
Yeah.
me, the more I now have space to receive and
Yes.
bring in the things that are. And I'm telling you, Laura, this
Yeah.
has come through big time in the last 3 years of my life. I did a
Mhm.
significant move from California to Ohio, where I now live. And it was scary because I had gone through divorce in California. I
Yeah.
stayed there for 7 years past divorce. I made new friendships. I did the thing. And then I moved to a brand new state in a brand new city and went like, oh man, now
Right.
what?
Yeah.
But as I let a lot of the things from my kind of my former chapter go,
Yeah.
I have had some of the most deep and meaningful connections in the past 3 years that I am just beyond excited and grateful for. So, for our listeners, I know that it may be hard to hear that right now,
Yeah.
but I hope that gives you hope for what you can fill those spaces with, because
Yes.
we're just making space. Reframe that mindset from this loss is leaving me with nothing to
Yes.
this loss is creating space for this next version of me to receive what is meant for me.
It is hard at first, but as you're healing and growing, it gets a little easier. It's still painful, but it gets
Yeah.
to be so much easier because as I'm doing this healing and growing, I am attracting people like me who have this light, who are in these healing spaces where I can say, "Oh my gosh, I did hypnosis and it was amazing," and blah blah blah. And this is what happened, because the people who aren't in those spaces, they just look at you like, "I don't get it," and "Why would you do that?" and "Why would you look at your deep dark secrets?" or or
Yes.
those that inner child. Why would you talk to it? Those kinds of things. But the people who are doing the work, they were starting to show up in my life, and I felt really seen and heard, and I didn't feel so alone. And so that's why I started to be open to it. It is hard because when you have close friends or whatever that just don't understand, it's okay. And my coach tells me the same thing. You got to let go, or actually you don't even have to let go. They just go. You don't even have
Yeah.
to do anything. They just go, but then now you have space to receive those really good friendships. Not always good friendships come in, so you have to still have those boundaries, because when you have an open space, somebody just wants to get in there, and those energy vampires want to come take. And,
Yeah.
as a giver, we got to be careful because the takers are going to take. So you have to be careful with that. So,
Absolutely. I call that protecting your emotional and energetic landscape, right? But
yes.
part of that comeback is taking that space back, taking the emotional landscape, taking the emotional energy, taking it back and refusing to give it to someone else. Because I see a
Yes.
lot of divorcees get stuck in this space too, right? I'll give you an example. It's I'm still looking at what my ex is doing on social media. I
Yes.
can't stop, like, maybe they're drunk dialing, or they're just
Right.
they're just obsessing over the idea of what went wrong. Why did this happen?
Yes.
What could I have done? And that's where we talk a lot about, this is your
Mm-hmm.
time. Again, remember, this is the comeback is a fierce reclamation. It's like,
Yes.
I'm taking it back.
Right.
So this is where you got to take back all of that emotional landscape that you're giving to someone else that
Right.
chose to no longer be a part of this experience with you.
Yeah.
So that's where you got to go, oh, I want to go look on social media. Excuse me, thank you for the reminder. I'm going to take that time and energy back. Thanks.
Yeah.
Right? Take it back.
Yeah, because
Reclaim it. It's yours.
it's that trauma bond, that keeps us stuck like that. And that's why when I'm talking to people or in my book or on my podcast, I talk about that all the time. Just like you have to go full no contact. There's times where I'm so curious to know what's going on. Oh my gosh, no, because all the times I looked, ugh, it set me
All the
back.
time.
It set me back.
Every
And we don't
time.
want to set back. We want to come back. And
That's
so
right. That's right.
we have to focus on ourselves. That's what I started doing, because even in society, sometimes focusing on yourself means you're selfish. Well, at this time in your life, that's what you have to do. You have to focus on yourself because the world needs you at your best. We're trying to do a comeback here,
Yep.
it's that was the most important. So I took that energy, like you said, and I'm going to go focus on something of my own, even if it's killing you. But people who are still like, I'm still friends with my ex, I'm like, well, good on you, because I don't understand that. Like, I don't care. I don't even want to
Yeah.
know what they're doing. Don't It doesn't matter because it's too painful. And it was, I could feel myself going backwards every time I engaged with that negative stuff.
A thousand
That's,
percent.
yeah,
For the first 6 months, I convinced myself, okay, we live separate places.
yeah.
Man, I'm so bored today. And he'd be like, hey, do you want to go hike the canyon? Blah, blah, blah. I'd be
Oh,
like, yeah, I do want to go. And I get so excited because I love hiking and I still
yeah,
loved him. Right. And
yeah,
instead of making space,
yeah,
right, I needed distance from him. I needed space from him. I whoop, glued right back together. And even though we were like,
yeah,
we're not going to sleep together. We're not going to kiss
yeah.
each other. We had made a kind of a commitment. Well, he had just decided like
Right.
I'm done with you. I can be friends. The thing was he could be friends
Yeah,
and not be affected. I was never friends. I was
yeah.
always a full-time he was a full-time love for me. That was,
Yes. Yeah,
a part of it. So me going back, I would leave, get in my car, drive because I would always have to drive to him,
yeah.
right? Red flag, red flag.
That's right.
Um no, you cannot spend the night. Red flag. Okay, get it
Yeah,
in your head, Heidi. All the drive home, I would cry. I'd be sad for 2 more weeks. And then I'd be
right.
like, okay, I'm not doing that again. And then 2 weeks later, he'd call. I'd get in my car. I'd drive back out to the canyon and I'd do the hike again. And I'd come back and I'd cry. And it was just this
The
cycle
cycle.
of hurting myself. And I
Yeah,
was doing it. I
yeah.
was doing it to myself over and over and over again. So we have to break that cycle in order to reclaim
Yes.
that energy back. Otherwise, it's just going to keep draining and it's just like an umbilical cord to that
It
to that
really
X and
is.
you got to cut that umbilical cord, that energetic cord.
I talk about this in my book about making a shit list that you have to write down, and you could even write down every time I see him I cry for, and I'm down for 2 weeks, but I wrote down all the terrible things that my ex did, because when the trauma bond was trying to convince me to look at his social media, I had to remind myself of all the things that were terrible. And it
Mm,
was very, very helpful. You're not posting it anywhere, you're not sharing it with anybody. Just reading that he lied, he cheated, he stole, whatever, he made me cry for
yeah.
2 weeks, after I saw him. It was really, really helpful. I know it sounds terrible because I think, people wanted me to think about all the positive stuff, but sometimes when we're in that trauma bond, right, where we want to look at social media and go back to them to go hiking, we have to remind ourselves, the last time we did this, it hurt and it knocked us down for too long. We can't
Yeah.
keep doing it. We just have to remind ourselves.
I think it's important to add to that list is just how did that make me feel? How did I
Yes.
feel when? How did I
Yes.
feel after I went on that hike?
Yeah.
Write that down. How did I feel when I trolled and scrolled his social media?
Yes.
How did I feel when? Because and then ask yourself, do I want to feel like that today?
Right. Right.
Right? Actions feelings or actions results. What happened when you took
Yeah.
that action with your ex? What result did it
Yes.
produce? It resulted in you feeling horrible. And what does your future self need? Does your future
Yes.
self need you to feel like that? Or does
Right.
your future self need the space and the energetic cutoff to plow forward and do something else with your time and energy? I
Right.
guarantee you she needs that.
Yes. She does. Okay, well, we're out of time, so I'm so thankful you were here to talk about this because I know it's going to just help so many people. So, we're going to put everything in the show notes, but tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh my gosh. I am on Instagram and TikTok, all the socials at Divorced Comeback Coach. So send me a DM over there. Or go to divorcecomebackcoach.com. We're registering for or enrolling now for our
Mhm.
3 month comeback community and coaching experience. And it is just jam packed with live, everyday experiences with other people just like you who are just ready to create that comeback and navigate their new normal. So thanks for having me. This has been amazing. And I just adore the work you're doing and the way you're showing up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I always enjoy talking with you. And yeah, go follow her social media because it's so great. It's always good information. And so, guys, if anything resonated with you today, will you please leave a review on Apple and Spotify? And of course, go find Heidi. And I'll have social media posts where you can comment on her posts and connect with her. I'll have all her information in the show notes. And, don't forget, you guys, your voice matters. So go out there and live the life you've always wanted to live. Thanks again for being here, Heidi.
Thanks so much.